In a small, peaceful town where everyone knew each other, the Peterson family had one treasure they cherished more than anything else, an ancient gold locket passed down for generations. The locket was said to bring protection and fortune. However, one morning it mysteriously disappeared. Mrs. Peterson, a sharp-eyed woman in her 60s, was devastated. She kept the locket in a glass case that was always locked, but when she went to clean it, she found the case open and the locket gone. The only people who had access to the house were her gardener, housekeeper, and her nephew, Daniel, who had recently moved in after losing his job. The gardener, Mr. Harris, was a quiet man with a love for plants but was always short on money. The housekeeper, Linda, had been loyal for 15 years, but her husband was known to have gambling debts. The nephew, Daniel, had no job and was often seen eyeing the locket with interest. Detective Riley, famous for solving small-town mysteries, was called in. The glass case was not broken. There were no signs of forced entry into the house. On closer inspection, a faint oily fingerprint was found on the lock. Outside the window, a footprint in the flower bed stood out. Detective Riley interviewed the suspects. Mr. Harris claimed he was working outside all morning, but seemed nervous. Linda insisted she was busy in the kitchen, but her story didn't quite line up with the time the locket went missing. Daniel admitted he had financial problems, but denied taking anything, claiming he was asleep in his room. As Riley examined the footprint, he noticed something unusual. A petal from a rare orchid was stuck to it. The only person who had access to that specific orchid was Mr. Harris, the gardener. When confronted, Mr. Harris finally confessed. He had been desperate for money and planned to sell the locket. He used a special tool to open the glass case without breaking it, but accidentally left an oily fingerprint behind. When he tried to leave quietly, he stepped in the flower bed. The locket was safely returned to Mrs. Peterson, and Mr. Harris was taken into custody. Mrs. Peterson, despite her anger, decided not to press harsh charges. Instead, she helped Mr. Harris find a better job in town. The case of the missing heirloom was closed, and Detective Riley earned another victory. The small town sighed in relief, but whispered that the locket might have had a curse after all.